Don't forget, you can reach the latest episode of Potomac Watch anytime. Just ask your smart speaker, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast. That is, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast.
From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back. I'm Paul Gigot here on Potomac Watch with my colleagues Bill McGurn and Kate Batchelder-Odell. Let's turn to the Houthi militia attacks on shipping in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. By now, those attacks are extensive. The Houthi militia based in Yemen, the USS Carney, shot down 14 drones on Saturday. A British warship also involved in shooting down a Houthi drone. But 2 commercial ships were hit on Friday, not too extensive damage in either case and no casualties. But these attacks, missiles and drones, have been going on for some time, with the USS Carney playing a particular role in defending commercial shipping against them, and in some cases defending itself. And the impact now is building because commercial shipping operations have decided they are no longer going to traverse the Red Sea. BP, the big oil company, said it won't send its tankers through there. Maersk, the giant European shipping company, is no longer sending them through the strait between the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. This is really the largest threat to global shipping in many, many years, maybe decades. What are the Houthis up to here?
Well, I think it is the largest threat to global shipping in decades. What you have here, so the Houthis are owned and operated by Iran. They're Iranian proxies. And so that's the way to think of them. And you have them trying to show and assert that they can basically hold the entire region hostage. They're doing so quite effectively. You know, some of these shipping lines are deciding to go around by the south of Africa and add 10 days to shipping times. And it doesn't take long for those kind of effects to compound into supply chain problems in the global economy. But the larger question is, what is the United States going to do about it? So far, we have not struck the Houthis' launch sites, for instance, or any of their weapons. We haven't threatened their ability to get resupplied weapons from Iran. There hasn't been a real robust response from the U.S. to deter the Houthis from these attacks. You have now a potential expansion of a maritime force to ensure commercial shipping could move through the Red Sea. We're awaiting that announcement here on Monday from the United States. And this task force exists. It's has a coalition of willing nations. But the question is whether really we are willing to deter the Houthis beyond that, to escort these ships. The Houthis say, that this is in protest over what's going on in Israel, that they are threatening ships heading to Israel, but they're making no such distinctions. Some of these ships are flagged by different countries than they're really operating with. So this is really a global threat, not a specific regional threat, but we are still waiting to see whether the U.S. will do anything about it. And so far, we've been attacked about 100 times on our bases in Iraq and Syria. And so far, we've only done these kind of pinprick strikes that haven't changed proxy groups' calculus. So that's really the core question of what's going on in the Red Sea.
All right, let's listen to Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor for the White House, talk about his assessment here of what the Houthis are up to.
While the Houthis are pulling the trigger, so to speak, they're being handed the gun by Iran. And Iran has a responsibility to take steps themselves to cease these attacks, because these attacks, as I said before, are a fundamental threat to international law and to international peace and security. And we will continue to consult about the best way forward, the best means of response.
Oh, man, if I hear continue to consult one more time from this White House, I think I'm going to pull my hair out. The idea, of course, of consulting with allies, putting together a coalition is, of course, prudent, wise, but continue to consult is going to be laughed at in Yemen and in Tehran. What they'll respond to, and the only thing I think they will respond to, is the threat of force and perhaps its actual use that forces these folks to pay some price. Now, the administration is reluctant to respond in this way, I think, in part because the Saudis are asking the United States not to escalate. And the reason is they don't want to reopen their war, which was draining on the Saudis with the Houthis in Yemen. They want to have that calm down. It has calmed down from its worst days. And they've also, of course, tried to improve relations with Iran. And I think the Saudis are concerned that if there is a response by the U.S. or even a combined Western force that takes out these ammo dumps and its missile launch sites, that it will escalate in the region. But that means, Bill, that what will happen is the Houthis will think they can continue to get away with this. And sooner or later, the risk, as I see it, is that one of these missiles is going to get through, maybe kill some American soldiers, maybe sink a ship. And why would they stop otherwise?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think adding to this is the general Biden administration worry with all these going on in the world. And that's a legitimate worry, but you can't be paralyzed by that. The way I read it is, Reagan was involved in a lot of proxy wars. U.S. and Soviet troops never came against each other, yet we won the Cold War. In some ways, it's easier to go after proxies than to go after the big guy himself. Trump did it with the Russian troops that were attacking Americans at the border. He just wiped them out. And because they didn't want to admit they were there, nothing happened. I think you're absolutely right. The Houthis are a problem, and they're a big problem, what's happening, but they are also an opportunity to make the point to Iran before it gets too big.
Okay, we only got about a minute or so left, but just give you the last word here. The Iranians, there's no question that they are supplying the Houthis with weapons. If we presented Tehran with a target list of Iranian targets and said, gentlemen, this is what's going to happen to you if you don't cut them off, I think they probably would get the message.
That has certainly been our lived experience with Iran. When we do get serious, they back down. But we're not seeing yet any real willingness. What the administration is signaling is that they are running all of their choices through the grid of how Iran might respond. And I think that really is the risk. But my last word would be that while what we have now is mostly a problem of political will, of getting the will to strike back against the Houthis, this event really is a reminder that we've got a Navy half the size of the Cold War, and we have multiple problems in the world proliferating at once. So we don't really have the luxury of just, not being involved in the Middle East, of focusing on other parts of the world. And I think this really third, in addition to Ukraine, in addition to the rest of the Middle East, it's a third real deterrence failure that really should make us think about whether America has the military power we need for the world that we actually live in.
All right. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Kate. We'll leave it at there. We're here every day on Potomac Watch, and we sure hope that you join us every day. Thank you for listening.